She was not cruel. She wasn't broken. She was magnetic. The kind of woman who turned heads when she entered a room. Men fought for her attention. Artists painted her. Poets wrote for her. Psychologists tried to understand her. And every one of them left confused and hollow. She would love them, wildly, fiercely, and then disappear. No warning, no closure, just silence. It was not that she did not want love. It's that no one ever unlocked the part of her that made it last. One man brought her flowers every day for a year. She vanished. Another promised her the world, a villa in Tuscany, a ring from Paris, undying devotion. She left him the morning after he proposed. The last man told her, "You are everything I have ever wanted." She replied, "Then you never really saw me." They said she was impossible to please. They were wrong. She was waiting for something no man had the power or the courage to give her. Until Freud. Freud studied women like her, not the ones who settled, but the ones who haunted you, the ones who shattered men and never looked back. And in his most controversial, suppressed work, he claimed to find the reason why. Not just why some women push love away, but why they crave conflict, why they test men, why they stay in love with danger and grow bored with peace, why they reject the man who gives them everything, and obsess over the one who gives them almost nothing at all. It was not cruelty. It was not chaos. It was a psychological pattern so disturbing, so taboo, that it was buried for decades. Freud did not just uncover a theory. He uncovered a code that explains why some women stay forever, and why others vanish even when they say they love you. This is not about manipulation. It is about seeing what most men never see, until it is already too late. Because the truth is, you do not lose her because you are not enough. You lose her because you never learned how to awaken what's buried inside her. And Freud did. You have been told she wants safety, stability, kindness. A man who shows up, listens well, and never causes drama. That's the myth. But look closer, not at what she says, but what she does. Why does she stay with the man who disappears for days but ignores the one who texts her back in seconds? Why does she light up for the emotionally unavailable artist but grow distant with the man who plans every detail of her life? Because comfort doesn't awaken her. Chaos does. Freud knew this. In his suppressed writings on the female unconscious, he said, "What she desires is not harmony, but heat." He believed that female attraction is not rational. It's rooted in tension. Not conflict as in cruelty, but friction. The feeling that something is at stake, something wild, something ungraspable, something that makes her feel alive. Let me tell you a story. In 1896, a Viennese duchess left her aristocrat husband, a man of wealth, stature, and calm devotion, for a man who lived in the city's criminal underbelly, a thief. When asked why, she said, "With my husband, I was preserved. With him, I am consumed." Freud documented it in his journals, not as madness, but as proof of a deeper law. The female mind doesn't want to be preserved. It wants to be stirred. This isn't new. It's been happening for centuries. Helen of Troy, Cleopatra, Marilyn Monroe. They weren't drawn to peace. They were drawn to fire. Modern science backs this up. A 2012 University of Texas study found that women are 52% more likely to pursue a man who exhibits controlled unpredictability. A man who's not cruel, but unreadable. Why? Because unpredictability activates the same dopamine circuits as gambling. And in the emotional casino of attraction, the man who can't be predicted is the one she can't forget. Another study published in the Journal of Neuroscience found that the anticipation of reward lights up the brain more than the reward itself. Translation: your attention, when given freely, has less value. When given unexpectedly, it becomes a hit of psychological adrenaline. That's why the man who sends her good morning texts every single day starts fading from her memory, while the one who texts her out of nowhere at midnight is burned into her nervous system. It's not logical, it's not fair, but it's real. Because the female mind, especially the unconscious, responds not to perfection, but to pressure. Not to consistency, but to polarity. The pull of opposites, the soft with the sharp, the kind with the unknowable. She's not trying to be toxic. She's trying to feel something real. And safety by itself is numbness in disguise. This doesn't mean you have to be unstable. It means you have to stop being predictable. Most men lose not because they're not good enough, but because they're too available, too easy to map, too smooth, too soon. She doesn't crave the man who gives her peace. She craves the man who interrupts it, just enough to make her heart race. The sooner you realize this, the sooner you'll stop blaming yourself for being too nice and start understanding what actually creates emotional gravity. Freud's work whispered this truth over 100 years ago, but it was too dangerous, too primal, too unfitting for the narratives we wanted to believe. But he saw it. He saw that deep down, it's not comfort she's chasing. It's the chaos that makes her feel alive. There's something Freud never shared publicly, not because it wasn't true, but because it was too dangerous. Buried in his private journals was a recurring term he never published: the shadow circuit. He believed the female unconscious operates like a current, invisible but electric, constantly testing the emotional infrastructure of the man in front of her. Not with words, not with logic, but with friction, with withdrawal, with silence. She's not trying to be cruel, she's trying to feel your spine. Freud noticed that the women who left the deepest emotional impact on men, the ones who lingered in memory, who rewrote destinies, shared something powerful. They all tested the men who pursued them, some without realizing it, some with surgical precision. He compared them to figures from myth. Cleopatra, who seduced two of the world's greatest military minds not through obedience, but through emotional war. Marilyn Monroe, whose beauty was blinding, but whose unpredictability was what truly hypnotized those around her. Salome, who danced for a king, then demanded the head of a prophet. Each one applied psychological pressure, not to destroy, but to reveal. Because in the female psyche, especially at the unconscious level, love is not given, it is earned through proof of emotional strength. She tests because she needs to know. Can you hold your frame when the storm comes? Or will you collapse the moment her energy shifts? In today's world, these tests don't look like seduction games from history. They look like this. She picks a fight out of nowhere, then watches how you respond. She withdraws affection, just to see if you chase. She ignores your message, to test if your confidence survives silence. Most men fail, not because they're bad men, but because they misread the game. They take it personally. They plead. They panic. And in doing so, they confirm the very thing she fears the most: that your strength was only surface level. But here's the truth. It's not the fight she wants. It's your foundation. Because when she creates chaos, she's hoping to find someone who doesn't get swept away by it. She pulls away emotionally or physically, not to punish you, but to see what you do when she's no longer validating you. Do you collapse, chase, lash out, or do you remain grounded, calm, alive, focused? Passing this test means holding your peace in her silence. She says something sharp, criticizes, undermines, pushes your emotional buttons. She wants to see if your ego needs to win, or if your self-worth is too deep to be shaken. Passing this test means responding without reacting. Power without performance. She creates confusion, sudden mood swings, emotional reversals, not because she's unstable, but because she's searching for your polarity. Can you remain solid while the energy around you fluctuates? Passing this test means becoming her anchor, not her mirror. Most men think relationships are about saying the right thing, being agreeable, accommodating, gentle, predictable, but they miss the shadow layer underneath. Because the unconscious female mind isn't asking, is he nice? It's asking, can he hold me when I can't even hold myself? And that doesn't mean fixing her. It means not being shaken by her storms. It means becoming the force she orbits, not the one that spins. With her, Freud called this the unseen architecture of seduction. Not tricks, not manipulation, but the ability to remain rooted, even when she's trying to knock you off center. Because here's what most men never realize. When she starts testing you, she's not trying to push you away. She's trying to find out if you're worth coming closer to. Freud once treated a woman whose voice could stop time, an opera singer, adored, wealthy, worshipped. Men wrote her sonnets, royalty invited her to private concerts, but she threw it all away. For a penniless poet who rarely spoke to her, he would vanish for weeks, return without apology, say little, then leave again. Yet when asked why she chased him, cried for him, abandoned her own world for him, she said one line: "When he's near, I feel alive. When he's gone, I feel hollow." Freud didn't call it love. He called it intermittent reinforcement. And he realized the human brain isn't addicted to affection. It's addicted to the pattern of unpredictability. This is what makes slot machines so powerful. They don't reward you every time. They reward you sometimes, randomly. And that randomness is what makes you keep pulling the lever. A 2014 study from Harvard confirmed this. The brain's reward system fires harder for unpredictable rewards than for consistent ones. Not the reward itself, but the anticipation, the hope, the maybe. And in relationships, the same mechanism applies. Not just to toxic love, but to emotional rhythm. The man who gives everything all the time without contrast fades into background noise. The man who disappears completely becomes a ghost. But the man who balances presence with absence, warmth with coolness, closeness with space, he becomes a neurological addiction. This isn't manipulation. This is biology. Because just like the opera singer, the modern woman isn't drawn to chaos for pain. She's drawn to it because it makes her feel awake. Let's break it down. Because this is where most men either become manipulators or martyrs. The goal is not to confuse her. The goal is to create emotional contrast, moments that feel vivid, alive, moments that make your presence mean something. Think of it like music. A song isn't powerful because every note is loud. It's powerful because of the rhythm, the spaces between the sound. When you're with her, be fully there, not distracted, not distant, engaged, eye contact, deep listening, presence like gravity. Let her feel your attention, but let her feel it as a gift, not a default. Pull back, not as punishment, but as mystery. Let her miss you. Let silence stretch. Let curiosity grow. Don't always respond instantly. Don't always initiate plans. Let her lean in. This creates the emotional motion her nervous system remembers, not flat consistency, but rhythm, like waves that pull back, only to crash in stronger. Modern. Neuroscience calls it the anticipatory cycle. The more she anticipates, the more she values. The more she wonders, the more she imagines. And imagination is far more powerful than information. That's why the man who gives everything up front rarely becomes the one she obsesses over. She didn't get to chase. She didn't get to wonder. And so, her brain never built those neural pathways of desire. Freud didn't frame this as game playing. He framed it as the psychology of attention. Because once you realize her addiction isn't to you, it's to the emotional rhythm you create, everything changes. You stop trying to win her. You start learning how to move her. And here's the truth most men never hear. She doesn't want everything at once. She wants to be surprised, to be moved, to feel uncertain. Not about you, but about what's next. Because when a woman starts wondering what you'll do next, she stops wondering about anyone. There's a reason some men are unforgettable. And it's not because they were the most handsome, the richest, or the most available. It's because they awakened something inside her that no one else could reach. Freud hinted at this. Jung developed it. And modern psychologists like Esther Perel confirmed it. The most powerful form of attraction isn't rooted in what you have. It's rooted in what you uncover. In her. Not who you are, but who she becomes in your presence. This is what Freud called emotional alchemy. The ability to turn latent desire into obsession through transformation. Not by being perfect, but by being the mirror that reflects back her unrealized self. In 1909, Freud studied a renowned sculptor. He was average-looking, abrasive at times, emotionally distant. But woman after woman, all brilliant, beautiful, socially adored, left everything to follow him. Why? Because he didn't try to possess them. He reshaped them. He saw something in them before they saw it in themselves. One woman, a shy heiress, described it like this. With other men, I was admired. With him, I evolved. I became someone I had only imagined in dreams. This wasn't manipulation. This was activation. He didn't praise her beauty. He challenged her boredom. He didn't flatter her. He confronted her potential. And in that friction, she became addicted to the version of herself he awakened. Modern psychology echoes the same idea. Esther Perel, a world-renowned relationship therapist, calls it self-expansion, the drive to become more through intimacy. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people are most drawn to partners who expand their self-concept. Not just those who make them feel loved, but those who make them feel more alive, more capable, more dynamic. And women, especially those who've outgrown shallow relationships, seek this deeply. They don't want a man who keeps them safe. They want a man who disrupts their story and replaces it with a more powerful one. Most men reflect what she already knows. You're beautiful. You're so kind. You're amazing. It's sweet. It's safe. It's forgettable. But the rare man reflects back what she hasn't yet become. He looks at her and sees the ambition she's hiding, the sharpness she suppresses, the creativity she silences to be accepted. And instead of idolizing her current self, he speaks to her future self. That's the man she can't let go of, not because he completed her, but because he revealed her. You don't need to be cruel, you need to be clear. Instead of saying, "You're so talented," say, "You're hiding what you really want to do, and you know it." Instead of saying, "You're beautiful," say, "You use beauty as armor. What are you protecting?" Instead of agreeing with her excuses, challenge the limitations she's been trained to accept, not with judgment, but with precision. This creates friction, and friction creates fire, not the destructive kind, but the kind that burns away the old version of her and makes room for the one she's secretly starving to become. He sees beyond her surface, into her blueprint. He doesn't worship her, he summons her. When she's around him, she thinks bigger, moves differently, dreams louder. He confronts her comfort zone. He calls out her self-deception. He makes her uncomfortable, not because he's mean, but because he won't let her stay small. He changes the way she sees herself. After him, she can't go back to the old version, because he made her feel more capable, more dangerous, more alive. These men don't seduce with words. They seduce with identity transformation. And once a woman associates you with a version of herself, she never wants to lose. She won't want to lose you either. Here's the real truth. Attraction doesn't last when it's about what you can give her. It lasts when you become a doorway into the version of herself she's never been brave enough to meet. And if you can become the mirror that shows her who she could be, she'll never forget the man who handed her the reflection. Freud's final discovery wasn't about dreams, desire, or dysfunction. It was about memory. Not the kind you think about, but the kind your nervous system never forgets. He called it psychosexual imprinting, the idea that under certain emotional and psychological conditions, a person becomes permanently etched into your internal world, not as a memory, but as a biological signature, and it explains why some women walk away easily, while others stay with men who hurt them, ignore them, or even devastate them, because something stronger than reason is at play. Freud described one woman in his private journals. She was intelligent, socially powerful, and self-aware, yet she stayed. With a man who mocked her publicly, disappeared for days, and made her cry more often than smile. When Freud asked why, she whispered, "Because when I'm with him, I feel like myself." He wasn't her fantasy. He wasn't even kind. But he activated something primal, not love, but imprint. Modern neuroscience confirms it. There is a critical window, usually within the first 3 to 6 months of intense connection, when the female brain makes a decision, lock in or let go. If you trigger deep emotional spikes during this window, especially moments of contradiction, pleasure plus pain, connection plus distance, validation plus mystery, you create a neural bond that overrides logic. A 2016 Yale study found that relationships involving emotional turmoil early on actually resulted in stronger long-term attachment. Why? Because the brain rewrites its own story to justify the intensity. It assumes this must be important because it cost me something. This is called effort justification, and it's how casinos, cults, and, yes, unforgettable men create loyalty. This doesn't mean being toxic, it means being unforgettable. You must create emotional contrast so sharp, so charged, that her nervous system remembers you at a cellular level. The spontaneous midnight adventure. The honest conversation that left her breathless. The unexpected silence after deep intimacy. The moment you looked her in the eyes and said, "You're playing small," and you know it. You don't need to manipulate. You need to disrupt her comfort in a way that feels sacred, because the man who only brings pleasure becomes background noise. But the man who takes her from laughter to fear to awe in a single night, he becomes a myth. Every woman is writing a story, not about her life, but about who she is becoming. If you want to be the man she never forgets, don't become her comfort, become her catalyst. Push her where no one else dared. See her in a way no one else has. Call out the version of her that terrifies and excites her at the same time. Because once she links you with her evolution, you stop being a man and become a symbol, and symbols don't fade. Most men try to win her, the rare ones change her, not with promises, not with perfection, but by being the force that shattered who she thought she was and revealed who she could become. So if you want her to stay, if you want to be the name she never erases from her memory, don't try to be safe. Be the story. Be the transformation. Be the man who made her feel like no one else existed. Because in the end, it's not love that binds her. It's the man who became her turning point.